Um, Good afternoon. My name is Damon Jones. I'm the New York representative of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America. And I'm standing here with elected officials and community stakeholders to protest the closing of the Mount Vernon Probation Office. We have here today with us Mayor Ernie Davis, Councilwoman Roberto Puzo, Pastor Cho DeCohen, who's representing the Interfaith Clergy for Social Action. We also have representatives from the LPS group, and we have Janice Duarte from the Mount Vernon Independence Club, and Pastor Jeffrey Wheeler. So I'm just going to be very brief because I want to bring on the stakeholders in the community here. But I've been in law enforcement for 25 years, and the Department of Probation is a well-needed institution in the community because it serves as a barrier for our young kids. And this office right here has been here over 30 years, for what I am told. But one thing that I don't think that the elected officials in Westchester County and probation management understand the services that they give the youth here, especially the mentally ill. They have 3 offices that's dedicated to mentally ill offenders. How are they going to respond to these offenders coming all the way from White Plains? Now, those in probation say that it will make it more efficient, but I think that will just put a burden on public safety and burden on the local police department. We have officers that work with youth. We have the youth of offenders. We have the PINS program, the person in needs of supervision. And we have officers that work directly with the local judges right here to try to keep the youth from being incarcerated at the Westchester County Jail. And they also do GED classes here and job fairs. So for them to come from White Plains, what area are they going to do it in? So, and how is that more efficient for the people that's under the probation officers and the community for Mount Vernon? So I'd like to pass this off first to Mayor Ernie Davis.
Thank you very much. I guess I never expected that I would be at a press conference with a lot of these people around here. This goes to show you we're very flexible at Mount Vernon. But the real deal is really one of the reasons I'm here is because I understand cause and effect. A lot of people will talk about crime and all sorts of dysfunction in communities, but they don't see the hidden agenda of some of our elected officials. They don't see that the things that we put in as a policy drives the crime rate up, it destabilizes families, and it takes the heart out of a community. If you look at what is happening in places like Mount Vernon, you'll note that the Social Security office was moved from Mount Vernon. The social service moved from Mount Vernon. Mental health moved from Mount Vernon. Child care has gotten too expensive. Budget cut for my sister's place, and the list goes on and on. And then they have the temerity to write about statistics. In fact, they have contributed to the negative statistics that we see. So this community has to start to worry about things outside Memorial Field. They have to worry about what goes into making a city stronger. And I think all of us here have a stake in this. There are children, and as young as 8 years old, that this will be affected. And then as this child grows up to be 10 years later, no investment in his and her future, what do you expect? And so I hope that this is one of the most serious issues that faces this community, because it affects the young generation. It destabilizes families, and I think that we should write to our legislators. I have just gotten off the phone with Ken Jenkins, and he gave me the inside of what is happening in terms of cutting the budget and getting a zero balance, because all we're doing is fooling ourselves, and as we fool ourselves, this whole community and communities such as this is burning. So I ask you, and I want to congratulate you for being out here in this struggle, because this is the one that we cannot afford to lose. Thank you.
Councilwoman Roberto Puzo.
Thank you, Damon. Besides being an elected official, I'm the Executive Director of Community Service Associates, which is located at South Fifth Avenue, and we are a soup kitchen. We provide vital services to the community, but not just feeding people, but helping in the reconstruction of many, many lives. Taking away this probation office from Mount Vernon is not beneficial to the young men and women that come to the soup kitchen to do the probation that it is they need to do. Some of these young men and women, and some adults, have hundreds of hours to do. We take them in, we give them a sense of responsibility, and once they leave, we know that they could be on the right road to enabling themselves to get jobs and to become vital members of our community. So we will hopefully keep going to the legislator so they do not cut. This is an awful, awful thing. You try to get people to come from White Plains to Mount Vernon to do their community service, and it's not going to happen. This is a detriment. So, Damon, you keep fighting.
Thank you.
For the rights of the young men and women and the older men and women in this community that need all of our services from all of the organizations that help them out. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Pastor Troy DeCohen, who's representing Interfaith Clergy for Social Action.
Good afternoon, everyone. I stand here in support of our community, in solidarity with all of our community leaders. We are here as clergy to speak against this injustice that is occurring within our community. We have with us clergy Bart Wooden, we have Reverend Anderson, Reverend Arthur Rose, Pastor Ed Moraine, and other clergy leaders here that will support the reinstatement of this center. You know, one of the things that's interesting is that statistics have declared that 1 in 4 young black males will be engaged in some type of activity with the criminal court system. Some say as high as 1 in 3. That means we're going to have anywhere from 25%, 35% of our young black men that will be engaged with the court system that's going to need the services from the Department of Probation. This service is the underpin in order to help them to transition back into community. And without this, our young black men then will have really no resource within the community that they live in order to engage into the re-entry and to become a good citizen again within our community. You know, and this is a travesty. We have to stop with all these cuts. Every time you look, they want to cut this, cut that. We are fighting with the county exec now to restore the budget, constantly looking to solve the problems of budgetary issues on the back of poor folk. This no longer is acceptable. We have to now galvanize, we have to organize, we have to speak out and say this is a social injustice and we're not going to deal with this no more. We will come out, we will organize, we will do everything we have to do in order to make our communities whole, to bring the services back into our communities, to make our people viable assets within Westchester and the city of Mount Vernon. Thank you.
Allow me just a moment to thank our mayor, and Mr. Jones for bringing us together on this day. Our church stands right around the corner from this institution, this landmark institution. We have built great relationships with this office. It would be, as you've heard before, a travesty for this organization, for this landmark institution to be removed from our community, from our families. Our families will suffer. Our neighborhoods would suffer. And it's time that we do what we're doing together today. Come together in unity for the community to fight the injustice, not just in Mount Vernon, but also in our county. So we stand with you together.
Thank you, brother.
Full support. Thank you so much. And whatever we can do, you got it.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Next up will be Janice Duarte of the Mount Vernon Independence Club.
Good afternoon. As a voice for the Independence Club here in Mount Vernon, I support the efforts of Damon Jones, our mayor, and all the leaders, community leaders here in protest of closing this institution. It is so important of the services that it provides to our community and most importantly to our youth. And if we keep talking to our youth and telling them that they have opportunities available to climb the ladder and to progress and to be better than what they have already done for themselves, we can't expect them to do that if we keep cutting the bottom rungs of that ladder. We need this institution here in support of the community and in support of our youth. And so I ask the county to reconsider their decision and reinstate the probation office here in Mount Vernon. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, Ken Bright of the LPS Group.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mayor and Mr. Damon, for inviting me. But at the same time, I'm here because I have a committed obligation to support those who are returning citizens into my community. We are a reentry transitional program for those returning citizens. And the reason I'm here is for the simple fact is what it does by removing this institution, you create a hardship not only on the individual, but the family and the community. Because what it does, it puts trauma on that family when this individual has to travel so far in order just to appear somewhere when they could be looking for a job or doing something constructive and substantial in the community. This institution here was right here in their backyard, so it was nothing that they had no problem of coming getting help or getting services from this place, but to send them all the way up to White Plains makes no sense and it's not economically sound.
Right. That's right.
Thank you.
That's right, Ken. That's right. I'd like to thank everybody that came out today. And I also want to make one note before we close for questions. The Westchester County Jail is half empty. It's close to 1,100 inmates. But is this the way off the backs of the people in Mount Vernon to fill up these cell blocks? You know, we have to look at that because moving this probation office will adversely affect the young black and brown and Latino youth that's in here. And without this program, without this building here, without these probation officers, they'll easily commit more crimes, join criminal gangs, and be right back in Valhalla. So we need to ask that question. You know, what is we might say is the bottom line, but what is the real reason behind it? I'd like to take any questions.
Damon, if you could tell us when it's slated to close.
December 15th.
And how many employees will be impacted?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. About around 9 or 10.
How many people on probation would it impact?
I'm not too sure on the numbers. I couldn't get the actual numbers in time. I don't want to make a guess on that because I wasn't. Yeah, I'll get back to you. I'll find that out. Hopefully before y'all air. Anything else? Well, thank you, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming out.
Thank you, Damon. Thank you, Damon. Well done. Well done.